This is the easiest programming tutorial that you can follow if you are a very new coder. If you don't know anything about coding, if you are an absolute beginner, if you are even from a non-tech background and want to do coding, this tutorial is for you. I will be covering everything from basics. This tutorial will be very, 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 very easy to follow. Everything will be practical. We will be writing code, no theory, nothing, a lot of theoretical concepts or something. We will be covering very little about theory kind of thing, but we will be writing code to actually learn how to code properly. Everything will start from basic. Everything will start from scratch. Okay, and let me also tell you, this is the level 0 for Namaste DSA. So people and students who want to learn DSA, data structures and algorithm, this will be like a level 0 for them, right? This is kind of like a prerequisite. So I will be assuming that you don't know anything about programming. You have never coded a single line in your life. And I will teach you everything right from basics. I am assuming that. Let me tell you, my dear friends, if you follow this tutorial properly, even your grandma can learn coding with this tutorial. Okay, so I will make it very, very super simple and super easy for you. And let me tell you, my dear friends, I'm a teacher, and I personally feel that anybody can code, right? Everybody who is watching this video can code. I'm not talking about becoming an expert programmer or something, no. But everybody I feel can code, can build algorithms, can write some code to get some output, right? And that is what I will prove you by the end of this tutorial. So keep watching this tutorial. And if you want to start, if you want to learn coding, then you are at the right place. If you are, suppose, a college student who have never coded or who have become frustrated when they have tried to learn coding from some other tutorials, right? You are at the right place, because I am going to start your coding journey today, and you will be able to write code properly after watching this tutorial. What I need from you all is, my dear friends, what I need is your attention and focus, right? If you give me your attention and focus, you will become a good or a decent programmer if you keep following my tutorials. I guarantee that thing to you. Right? So let's get started. And before starting, let me tell you, this is a programming 101, right? It's very basic tutorial that we are going to talk about, right? We will talk about how do you write your first code, how do you write if-else conditions, for loops, everything right from basics I'm going to cover in this tutorial, okay? And the programming language that I will be using is JavaScript, okay? Now, a lot of students ask me, Akshay, why JavaScript? Why should I study JavaScript? Why not C++, C, Java, right? Python? Why JavaScript? Let me tell you, JavaScript is the most popular programming language in the world. Most popular. And it is widely used. You will, go to any company and ask them, they would be using JavaScript on production, right? Every company in the world. All the things on the internet, on the web runs on JavaScript, and JavaScript is used in so many places. JavaScript is a very beautiful language, my dear friends. If you haven't watched Namaste JavaScript, I would suggest you to go ahead and watch Namaste JavaScript, and you will fall in love with JavaScript. And I am going to teach you today everything to write code in JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript is very popular. It's a great addition to your skill set. Please, even if you hate JavaScript, just watch this tutorial and you will start loving JavaScript a little. Okay, so let's get started. And you know what? One more reason why I choose JavaScript is there is no heavy installation, or you don't have to do a lot of things to run JavaScript, right? You just need a browser. That's it, right? So let's go to a website. Let's get started without wasting any time, my dear friends. Let me tell you where will you write code, and I will just start writing code now. Let's just go to namastedev.com and go to /playground, right? There is a URL, namastedev.com/playground. So we have built a small playground for you all, so that you don't have to set up your coding environment and something like that in your local system, because a lot of people don't start programming because there is a very big tutorial that you have to follow and set up your laptop accordingly, and it takes a lot of time, and by the time you set up, you lose motivation. Nothing of that sort. We have built a playground for you all. Just go to namastedev.com/playground. I will also add this link in the description of this video, so that you can just click over there and go to this playground. Now, this playground is kind of like a setup which is already made for you. You just have to start writing code now, right? So that you don't lose your motivation, you can just start writing code. So this playground has a browser, right? So whatever code you write on the left hand side, you can see the real output over here. And here is a console. So right now in this tutorial, we are not concerned about browser, because we are not building anything on the website, right? We are not building buttons and those kind of stuff. We are just writing JavaScript. We will write some piece of code on the left hand side. So you see, there are a lot of files: index.html, JavaScript, package.json, style.css. You don't have to worry about any file. Just go to index.js. This is the only file we are bothered about, right? The JavaScript file. We will be writing some piece of JavaScript code over here, and we will be seeing the output over here in console. Okay, very, very simple and straightforward. We will write some JavaScript over here. We will see the output over here real time, right? So this is the playground. Let's get started with writing our first program. The first ever program that any tutorial will follow is printing hello world onto the console. Now, let me tell you, my dear friends, right? When I am teaching you, let me tell you what is programming. In a general statement, if I have to give it, so basically you write some piece of code and it produces some output, right? It gives you some output, right? That's all basically programming is, right? You write some code and you get some output, right? That's what programming is. And if the output is as expected, whatever suppose you write a code to build a button, right? And if a button is your output, then you have written good code. If the button does not appear, that means you have written a bad code, right? There is a bug in your program or something like that, right? We will cover onto those specifics also, but this is programming in a nutshell, right? It's a very layman language explanation for you. So we will be writing some piece of JavaScript over here and we will get some output, right? We can say that, okay, the code that we wrote, it produced some output, right? So that you will see over here. So let's get started, very basics. Let's see how to write console log, right? There is a function, right? Suppose if you have to print something onto console, so there is a statement that you can write console.log, and over here, if you write in double quotes, hello world, so it prints hello world onto the console. So the first program that you will ever write in any language is printing hello world onto the console or getting hello world as the output. And this is the program we have already written in JavaScript. If you do console.log hello world, it prints over here. Okay, got it, my dear friends? So this is how you write your first program. Try to follow along with me in this tutorial. You just don't have to watch me coding, because you know what I personally feel is coding is like building muscles in your gym, right? If you want to build your muscles, you have to lift the dumbbells up yourself, right? You will have to practice coding yourself. Otherwise, you can never be a good programmer. You will never build those muscles. Just like in gym, right? If you will just watch other people doing workout, right, you will not gain muscles, right? So you have to pick up those dumbbells and lift it yourself. That is how you have to go to the playground, write code yourself to make it work, and that's how you learn programming. Let's get started. So this is our first program, hello world, and hello world is printed onto the console. What we understood by this statement is, if I have to write anything onto this console, right, so I just do console log and it works in JavaScript, right? If I write Akshay Saini over here, it prints onto the console. First, hello world. And you know, let me tell you, when you run a JavaScript file, it runs line by line. So the first line will be executed after second line, then it will move to third line, then it will move to fourth line. And similarly, you can do something like this, right? So first line, second line, third line, fourth line, this is how things are executed. Very simple, very plain logic. Try to do it yourself. See if you can print things on console or not, right? Suppose you have printed some things in console. Now, let me also tell you, what are we printing on this console, right? So what are we printing? What is this hello world? And why are we wrapping this inside those double quotes? Is there a meaning to those double quotes? Yes, there is a meaning to those double quotes. So the meaning of this double quotes is, see, in programming, there are a lot of things you can store, or lot of data types, right? Lot of type of data can be there. So there can be data which is known as strings, right? Strings are generally wrapped inside these double quotes and it can contain anything, right? Akshay is a string, right? If you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a string, right? If you write Akshay March 7 is a string, alphanumeric, it can also have characters. Basically anything you write inside double quotes is known as string in JavaScript. Got it? This is one data type. So suppose if I have to write hello worlds, so this is a string. Now, similarly, just like we have strings, we also have numbers. Suppose if I write 7, this is a number. But if I enclose it inside a quote, that means it's a string. So there is a difference, slight difference, right? Just understand that if you wrap anything inside double quotes, it becomes a string, right? We will see what is the difference between both of them as we go ahead in this tutorial, right? You know, anything that I'm telling, and if you are not understanding it fully, completely okay. It can be a little, you know, tricky for you initially, but as we go ahead, as we keep writing more and more code, you will understand everything about string and then numerics and then boolean, and then all of things will be understood. Don't worry about that, right? So this is a string, this is a number, and you know, in programming there is a concept and there is something known as boolean, right? When I say boolean, it's a data type, and this data type can only be true or false, right? It can either be true or false. Now these true, false, these are reserved keywords. If you misspell it, if you write FALS, it will say false is not defined. We are like JavaScript does not understand what is FALS, right? So it should be false. That is when it will recognize false. Okay. So there are 3 main data types which I want to tell you right now. There are more data types, but that's all you need to know. String, number, booleans, right? Now, suppose if I want to print a number 7 over here. So how can I print? Instead of these double quotes, if I write 7, it will print 7 onto the console. This is the number 7. Okay. This is number 7 over here. Suppose if I want to print a boolean true, right? It prints true over here, right? It will print true over here. What happened? Cool. So it will print true over here. I don't know why hello world is not getting printed. Let me refresh the page once. If you see some issues with this playground, just refresh it once. And then let me copy paste. See, now you see true over here, right? This true is printed over here, right? So this is how you log something onto the console. Now let me, you know, I was intentionally going slow. Now I will go a little faster to make things understandable for you even further, right? Let's go ahead. Now suppose if I want to do some mathematical operations, right? Suppose I want to, add some data, right? Suppose I have 2 numbers and I want to add those 2 numbers and print it onto the console. How would I do it, right? And I will also teach you that how can you store some data into some variables so that later you can use it, right? Let me tell you how. There are 2 ways you can create variables. So one way is you can write constant. A is equals to 10. That means this 10 value has been, this number 10 has been assigned to this constant A, right? So this is the meaning of writing this statement. This means there is a constant A and you are assigning 10 to this a, right? Very simple, right? Similarly, we can create more variables. I can create constant b and it can be 20, right? Now what we can do is, similarly we can create one more variable, constant sum, and I can calculate sum of these two numbers, right? I can write a plus b, and what will happen is it will add these two numbers. It will add these two numbers, right? It will add 10 and 20, and it will store this result of this a plus b into sum. Now, suppose I want to see the value of this sum on my console. How will I see that? How will I see? You already know that. I will have to do console.log, and if I write sum over here, it prints 30 over here, my dear friends. Suppose if I try to print a, right? If I try to print a, that means it will print the value of a, which is 10. Suppose if I print b, it will print 20, right? If I try to print sum over here, it will print 30. Got it? So this is how you calculate. You can do mathematical operations like this, right? I can also calculate maybe multiplication, multiply, right? Suppose I have a variable multiply, const multiply, and I can say a multiply by b, right? And now if I want to see the result of this multiply, I can just do console log multiply. It gives me 200. Why? 20 into 10, it's 200. Got it? Now I can also calculate difference, right? Difference. Let me calculate difference, right? Difference between the two, and I can say a minus b. What do you think the value would be? What do you think the value would be? And now if you are confused, you always have to write a semicolon to end the statement, okay? That's why I'm writing semicolon. So semicolon, that means I'm ending a statement, okay? So difference a minus b. If I print the difference, you'll see minus 10. 10 minus 20, that means minus 10, right? So this is how you store values in a variable. Now, let us just remove everything, right? Just like we did, const a is equals to 10, and this 10 value was getting inside this constant a. Similarly, now, similarly, there is one more way you can declare a variable, which is let, and you can say let x is equals to 20. So this means I have created a variable a and assigned this 10 value to a. This means I have created the value 20 and I have assigned x to 20, right? That means the value of x is 20 now. What is the difference between const and let? The difference between const and let is, suppose if you have declared a constant variable, I cannot change it later. Suppose if I try to do a is equals to 10, if I do a is equals to 20 later on, it will give me an error, right? So this error is that you cannot modify this constant variable. So basically, if you have assigned a value to a constant variable, you cannot change it later. Okay, but this is not the case with let, right? Suppose I have defined let x is equals to 20. Later on, I can change the value to 30. That is completely okay. This will not give you any error or something, right? So now the value of x will be 30. And now, suppose if we had printed the value of x, before this, it would have printed 20. You understood, right? So basically, x is equals to 20, console.log x 20, and then I changed the value of x to 30, and then I printed x, right? So there are two ways, constant and const and let. Two ways of creating variables. There are more ways, but just be concerned about const and let. There is one more way. There are more ways to create variables, but we don't have to go into that. See, this tutorial can get very long. I can dive deep into a lot of things, but I don't want to go over there. I want to teach you enough so that you understand programming, you can write code, and I don't want to bore you also, right, with telling you a lot of theory and all. I'm only telling you the necessary portion of coding, right? Necessary things that you should know if you have to code. Okay, so my x is equals to 20, console log 20, and then x 30. So now let me also tell you, my dear friends, I would be using let a lot more. And whenever I will be doing data structures and algorithm problems later on in Namaste DSA, I would be using const. I would be using a lot of let and not const, right? So you can assume that, okay, whenever you want to create a variable, use let, right? You can just use let. Const has its own values, right? Const has its own, unique value proposition. That there are places where you should use const, but for now you can just understand that I will use just let. Okay, just understand whenever I'm creating a variable, I will use let. Cool. So this is how you create a variable and log it. You can do mathematical operations and a lot of other stuff. Now we were playing with numbers, but what if I create a string, right? What if I create a string s, or let me call this as my first name, right? Let's create my first name string, and this string can be Akshay, right? You have already seen how we can do that, right? And then similarly, I can create another variable, and I can say the last name, and I can say Saini, right? So Akshay and then Saini. And then you know what? Suppose I want to, I want to create a variable which says full name, right? Full name, and I want to add these two values, right? Suppose I want Akshay Saini to be there in my full name. What can I do? I can, yes, my dear friends, you would have guessed it right. I can just do first name plus last name, and it will add these two strings. It will add these two strings. Got it? So now if I will do console.log, let's do console.log, and let me print full name over here. It gives me Akshay Saini. Very easy, very basic, right? But it does not give you space in between. So how can you add space? You can either add space by adding a space over here, or that's a hacky way. Or what you can do before, so you are adding first name plus last name. What you can do is you can add first name plus a space. This is a string plus last name. So what it will give you? It will give you Akshay space Saini. You can basically write a middle name if you have, and you can also do something like this, Akshay middle name Saini, right? But I just want a space, so you can just add a space like this. Now one more interesting thing let me tell you, and one more interesting thing let me tell you. Suppose if you have a string and suppose the last name is number 7, right? Suppose I'm just, if you want to, before telling you that example, let me also tell you, suppose if you want to comment out something, you have to use 2 double slashes. If you use 2 slashes, that means this line is commented. This line will no longer be executed. Okay. So if I write this line is commented. Got it? So this is how it works. Now, suppose if there is a string and suppose I want to add a number onto that string, right? Suppose if I say I have a number 7. Okay. I want to add this Akshay and 7. What will happen now? What will happen? If I remove this comment, what will be printed in the full name? Can you guess? Yes, my dear friends, Akshay and 7 will be printed. So, some people think that, okay, this should give error because how are you adding a string to a number, right? It does not make sense. But in JavaScript, it does not throws an error and it just, what it does it behind the scenes. I don't want to dive deep into behind the scenes of this, but what is actually happening behind the scenes? Whenever you are adding a string to a number, it basically converts this number onto string once again, right? And then it concatenates 2 strings, right? So it is basically converting this number to a string and then doing it. But suppose if there are 2 numbers, let's say 7 and 3, and again, see, if I am adding 3 and 7, it is saying 3 space 7 because I am adding a string to it. If you remove string from the equation, if you just do plus, it will actually do a mathematical operation. If you put a string in between, if you do a string in between, that means it will not add, it will just concatenate 2 strings. It will basically attach these 2 strings. So that's how string addition works. It is also known as string concatenation. And if you are just dealing with numbers, so it will just do a mathematical operation, which is 10. So it's a very basic thing which I'm telling you. A lot of people might already know all these things also. You can just switch the video to faster mode 1.5x or 2x to watch it first. But these things are important for people who are working first time with JavaScript. In a lot of other languages like C, C++, Java, these things are not possible. Even if you create a variable, suppose if I created a variable first name is equals to 3, you have to define whether this variable will contain a number or a string, and you cannot change it later, right? So you basically, if you are doing it in C++, you have to do something like int first name is equals to 3. That means this first name can only contain integer values. But in JavaScript, there's nothing like that, right? You can even change the value from number to string later on, right? I can just do my first name is equals to Akshay later on. This is a perfectly valid JavaScript. Right? So basically now first name was 3. Now later on I changed it to string, right? How is this happening? Let me tell you, my dear friends, whenever you are running any piece of JavaScript code, and take a note of it. I hope you already have your notebook and a pen with you and you are taking notes along with me, right? If you are not, bring your notebook and pen, take notes along with me because these are important stuff everybody should know, right? So now, if you are running any piece of JavaScript code, that means this code is, any JavaScript code can only be executed inside a JavaScript engine. JavaScript engine understands your code, right? JavaScript engine understands your code and it basically executes your code line by line. How is this coming in over here in console? Because there is a JavaScript engine running behind the scenes inside this browser. Okay, so wherever there is JavaScript and you have to execute that JavaScript, you need a JavaScript engine. That's sure shot. You definitely need a JavaScript engine, right? So what I'm trying to say is, whenever you are changing this from number to string, there is a lot of heavy workload that happens inside that JavaScript engine and the developers don't have to worry about, right? So the JavaScript engine takes care of all those heavy workloading, right? From changing this number to string and doing a garbage collection and a lot of other things, right? That is all is taken care of by JavaScript engine. Okay, so you don't have to worry about anything. Okay, so that's what I wanted to explain you, that you can change this number to string. JavaScript engine will take care of everything, right? And it makes the life of developers very easy. That is why JavaScript is very easy to understand, right? Just think about it. If you are adding Akshay to 7, Akshay 7 is the output, right? You know whatever you think that should happen, that happens in JavaScript, right? It does not throw errors or something, right? So it's a little weird also. People who are coming from C, C++, Java background, right? Who have studied C, Java, they find it very weird, right? Why JavaScript is behaving this way. But that's how it is. Instead of criticizing JavaScript, you should appreciate the beauty of it, right? That it is doing a lot of cool stuff, right? And it is doing it real time. Whenever you are making any change over here, suppose if I'm writing AKSH like this, as soon as I type this, JavaScript engine actually executed our code and printed the output on the console. It's running very fast. It's running on the fly. It does not compile your code or something, right? It just quickly compiles and throw an output for you, right? It's very fast. Got it? So that's how JavaScript works. Now, I think I'm going a little slow. I should go a little more faster. Just like we have string and numbers, similarly, we can also have arrays, right? Let me tell you what is array. So let's create our first array, ARR. This array is created by the square brackets. If you write the square brackets, that means it's a list. Array can store multiple values, right? A normal variable can store a single value, right? I can say let a is equals to 10. So that means only one value stored. But in array, you can store multiple values like 2, 6, 0, 100, and then 9. You can store anything you want to. 27. You can store multiple values. This is how. And this is kind of like a list. In some programming languages, this data structures is also known as list. This is known as arrays in JavaScript. Okay, so this is how you write an array. You can even log this array onto the console, and you will see that okay, you have 2, 6, 0, 100, 9, 27, right? That's how it is printed onto the console. Now, let me tell you that how JavaScript store this array behind the scenes. Okay, for that I will need to use my pen and paper, right? How does JavaScript store this array? Suppose if you are creating an array, right? Suppose if you are creating an array, let me just create an array. So suppose if you have an array of 10 numbers, right? 10 numbers, 2, 0, 1. Not 10 numbers, let's say only 5 numbers. How JavaScript will store this array is, this is array. So what will happen is, JavaScript kind of keeps a mapping or creates a table, and it stores a index and a value, right? It stores a index and a value. Now the index starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And for each index there is a value. The value is 5, 10, 2, 0, 1, right? So the index of this array starts from 0, right? So this is the index. This is the 0th index. Let me use some other color. This is the 0th index. This is the first index. This is 2 index. This is 3 index. This is 4 index. Okay. So, and you know what happens is, suppose if you want to find out the number or the value at second or the 2 index, how can you find it? You can just do ARR of 2 and it will give you the value. It will contain the value 2. If you want to do ARR of 4, that will give you the value 4. Sorry, give you the value what? 1, not 4. 1. Okay, let me erase this. It will give you the value 1. Got it? So that's how arrays work, right? This is array. It stores index and value, and it automatically starts the index from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it goes on, right? Till all the array elements. So what I'm trying to do, suppose if I'm doing a console.log of my ARR of 4, just see what is getting printed. 9 is getting printed. Why? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So 9 is getting printed. Suppose if I do ARR of 0, 2 is getting printed, right? So the index starts from 0. Suppose if I do something like this, right? Instead of const, let's say sum. And if I do ARR of 0 plus ARR of 4, right? 4. So what will be the value of sum? Can you tell me? Can you tell me the output? Quickly tell me the output, right? The output will be 11. Why? Because 2 plus 9 is 11, isn't it? So you can do something like this. Suppose if you are printing over here A of 5, what does it give? What does it give you? Right? ARR. My bad. ARR of 5, it gives you 27, right? Because this the value is 27. What if I try to go to an index which is not present, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What if I do ARR of 6? What will happen? If I write 6 over here, what will happen? If I write 6, it will give you undefined, right? So it gives you object, but it's kind of, it's undefined, right? It's basically, it does not exist, right? It does not exist basically. It should give you undefined. I'm not sure why it is giving you something like this, right? Let me just try to run it over here, right? Let's remove this sum. See, one more cool thing, let me tell you, if you do right click and inspect, over here, if you go to console and try to run this piece of JavaScript code, here also you can run any piece of JavaScript code. Suppose if you do console.log over here and you write hello world, this is again, you can also write JavaScript over here, right? It will return the value over here, right? Similarly, if I printed something like this, see, it returns undefined, right? Over here in this playground, this undefined is printed like object. That could be a case, but it's undefined, right? It is not defined. We have not defined anything on the index 6 over here. Got it? So that's how arrays work. Now, don't worry if you are not understanding a lot of things over here. Once we start working with a lot of arrays, you will understand everything properly. Okay, now this array is cool, right? This is a numeric array. Can I create an array of strings? Yes, you can, my dear friends. You can create an array of strings also, right? How do you create an array of strings? Suppose if I say my array contains a string Akshay, and then I can have more variables, more strings over here. I can say I have Deepika over here. I can have Sachin over here. I can have anything, right? You can have Virat over here, right? You can create an array of as many values as you want, and it will behave the same way, right? If you do a console.log of ARR of 2, what will be printed? Sachin is printed onto the console. If you do ARR of 1, Deepika is printed onto the console. Isn't it? Amazing, right? So pause the video over here, go and do the same thing in your laptop, in your playground, and try to see, right? Are you able to follow this or not? Are you able to write the code or not? Can you create this array or not? Okay, and then come back and I will tell you more amazing stuff. Now, let me tell you one more interesting stuff about array. Array can be of numbers, array can be of strings, and let me also tell you, my dear friends, array can be a mix and match of strings and numbers also, right? You can contain strings, it can contain numbers also. It can contain any data type. You can mix and match things also, right? You can even add boolean, right? We have not talked about boolean. We can also add a boolean true over here, or we can add a string XYZ over here. We can also add a boolean false over here. You can do whatever you wish to, right? You can do all these things over here. Again, if I want to print, see this, ARR of 1, it will give me 7. If I do ARR of 5, let's see what is printed. ARR of 5 is XYZ. If I do ARR of 6, it gives me false, right? Which is the boolean. So what I'm trying to say is array can contain mix and match of different types of data also. It can have strings, it can have booleans, it can have numbers, it can have a lot of other things. It can have numbers, it can have negative numbers also. Everything works over here. If I do -3, it is perfectly fine. No issues. So this is a data structures which I want to show it to you. Now, one more interesting thing is, right, array can contain string numbers and array can contain array also, right? Array can contain array also, right? Interesting stuff, isn't it? So array has, the first is Akshay, the second index 0 is Akshay, index 1 is 7, and index 2 is 5 and 10. This is again an array. If you see it clearly, it is an array, right? 5 and 10. So I can have this as the third value over here, right? If I print out ARR of 1, it will print me 7. What if I print out ARR of 2? It will print me array. This is array 5, 10, right? Suppose if I do something like this, ARR of 2 of 0. Do you see what happened right now? Do you see what happened right now? Right? So ARR of 2 is pointing to this array, and if I'm doing a 0 for this, so it is giving me the element on the 0 inside ARR of 2, right? This is what also you can do inside array. You can play along, right? This array can again contain inside. You can have one more array inside this, right? So JavaScript is, you can do all these things in JavaScript, and you can again do something like this. Array of 2 and then 0, 1, 2, array of 2, and I can say of 1, it will give me what value? It will give me 30. Why it's giving me 30? Tell me, right? Why it's giving me 30? So array of 2 is this array, and then of 2 is this array, and then of 1 means 0 and 1, 30. Got it? So this is how arrays work. Now, if it is getting complicated for you, don't worry. Generally, you will not be doing all of it, right? This is, I have just shown you for demonstration purposes, but generally you won't find array of mixed things, right? Do you see that it is also giving me error now, because this is not a good code again, right? So this works. But what I'm trying to say is, I'm just telling you the capabilities of array. I'm not saying that this is what you'll find. Most of the times you will not be building this kind of an array. It will not be existing, right? But I'm just showing you that this is also possible. When I was talking about arrays, I wanted to cover this. Now, we have seen strings, we have seen strings, we have seen numbers, we have seen boolean, we have seen arrays. Let me also show you objects in JavaScript, right? Objects is another amazing thing inside JavaScript, right? So in JavaScript, there is something known as objects. How do you create an object? Let me create an object. Now the object is created by curly braces, right? Now this object contains key value pairs, right? This object contains key value pairs. Now, suppose if the key is A, and now the value can be anything, right? Value can be a number, right? I can say A is equals to 7. I can add comma, and I can add another key value pair over here, right? I can add another key value pair. I can say name is equals to Akshay. So the key can be anything, right? There are rules for making keys also, right? There are rules. I'm not going into that detail, but I'm just saying that, okay, it's a key value pair kind of thing. That's all you need to know about it. As of now, just know that there is a key value pair, okay? So object is key value pair. This is key, this is value, right? It can also contain boolean values, right? Let's say bool, right? This is a key, and then I can contain true, right? It can even contain array, right? You can add key, whatever. You don't have to be specific about this name. You can write anything, right? You can write ARR, or you can write AR, or anything you wish to, right? ARR and can contain array of values, 6, 7, 8, or any array you want to. You can just contain all of it. Sorry, my bad, right? So you can contain array also, right? This is a key value pair. Now, how this object is stored inside, how this object is stored over here, let me tell you. So let me just show it to you. Let me write and show it to you. Suppose you have an obj, and it has a key value pair, A is equals to 1, and then it has name is equals to Akshay, and then it has bool is equals to true, right? It can have a lot of values. So again, this object is also stored something like this, where in arrays we had index and value, and the index was automatically defined, right? We did not have a control over this index, right? This part we did not have control. Array, we just give values and it stores at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But in object we give it key. So it's a list where we can have key and value. It's a key value pair, and this key is A is 1, and then name is Akshay, string, right? And then this bool is true, right? Similarly, this is how object is stored over there. Suppose in the array, what we were doing, in array we were referencing to this value. How we were referencing? We were doing array of 2, right? We were doing array of 2. So it was giving me the index of 2. How will I do over here? Over here, what I can do is I can do obj dot a, and it will give me the value 1. If I do obj dot name, it will give me the value Akshay. If I do obj dot bool, it will give me the value true. So basically, this dot sign tells you, and then dot sign, and over here you can add this key, tells you which the value would be, gives you the value. Okay, so let me just show it to you how to write code for this. If I go over here, if I do a console log, right? Suppose if I do a console log of obj dot a, so it will give me 7, right? If I do obj dot name, it will give me Akshay. If I do obj dot arr, it will give me 6, 7, 8. Got it? So this is how you can reference an object, right? You can do obj dot and then arr, and it gives you the array, right? Whatever is there. And similarly, you can do mathematical operations also, right? You can, suppose if you want to add, this is name, and let's say we have first name and last name is maybe, let's say Seni, right? I can add Seni and I can call this as first name. So what I can do is I can just do a first name plus last name, right? First name plus last name, right? Why it is giving array? Acha, okay. So I have not put a comma over here. If you don't put a comma, it will throw an error. If I do first name plus last name, it is giving me first name is not defined. Why? Okay, sorry, my bad. We have to do obj dot first name because first name is not defined, right? Obj dot last name. It gives me Akshay Seni. Do you understand it? This is known as objects, right? So we have seen strings, we have seen arrays, we have seen Boolean, we have seen numbers, we have seen objects. So these are the major data types or major things that we'll be working on in programming. We have not written any program, by the way. All this is also coding, all this is also programming, but programming is kind of like problem solving. We will do a lot of problem solving, don't worry, but these are the basics you should definitely know. If you don't know much about these things, then you will not be able to follow up with what I'm going to teach you next. Okay, so that's all. That's all that I wanted to teach you in this tutorial. There are a lot more things. We will see how you can create functions inside JavaScript. We will create functions, reusable functions, and we can do a lot more cool stuff with those functions. I will teach you if else, I will teach you for loop, I will teach you how to do a lot of things, right, inside programming, inside JavaScript. For now, I am taking a break from this video, right? And then in the next video, please continue along. I would suggest you to go practice yourself. In the next tutorial, I would be covering a lot more about functions, how you can write your own functions, how you can write if-else conditions, how you can write your for loops, how you can write while loops, and a lot of crazy stuff is going to be covered in the next video. Okay, this video was going a little longer. That's why I need to stop it right away. Please follow along, and I would suggest you please keep coding along with me, and I will make you a great programmer. Trust me on that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next video. Don't miss it out, my dear friends. Keep taking down notes and keep practicing. Bye-bye. Namaste. See you in the next one.